for today's session, and that too the topic is very hot in the IT industry. For a couple of like years we were talking about cloud. Now this year we are the industry is focusing on multi-cloud, and Alhamdulillah, Brother Imran is leading that effort in IBM. His most respectable uh, technical leader in IBM, mashallah. So, so he is associated with us from the initial phases itself. Alhamdulillah, he was participant for our conferences, and we have used his expertise in College Connect as well. So we have visited Lord's College, conducted the workshop in the cloud. Alhamdulillah, so we are fortunate to have him here. So I think this session is going to give us a very good overview of multi-cloud that is currently talked more in the industry. So Alhamdulillah. So recently Imran Bhai has been promoted to SPSM, very again a key role in technical leadership. So, and the good part of Imran Bhai is these promotions, whatever he has received, right? So in very short period of time. So he came from Intel background, but he switched to power system very quickly, understood the technology, and then he started contributing as a leader there. That's why he is more seen as a very deep technical strength leader. So he is involved in various forums for career guidance within IBM as well. Alhamdulillah. So he has been he is also participating in various UR relationships, especially to IIT Hyderabad and other IITs. Alhamdulillah, with a lot of rich experience, we are going to listen to him today. So I welcome Imran Bhai again for taking out his precious time and taking us through this important topic. Jazakallah. Over to you, Imran Bhai.
Jazakallah, shukriya, Shahid Bhai. Assalamu alaikum. So, I have just put the agenda slide, but considering that this is all virtual session, right? We are not able to see each other. In fact, I don't know many of you in person as well, right? And it is difficult when you don't know your audience, right? To talk and where to start, right? I just wanted to maybe spend 5 minutes quickly. If majority of the people are already from the cloud background, or they have used cloud in some way or other way in their day-to-day practices, or majority of the audience are that like they don't have any understanding of cloud, what it is, right? I'm sure none of us today can say that they are not using cloud. The moment you are using your mobile phone, that means you are one of the cloud users, right? It is such an thing penetrated into our day-to-day life. So I would not go into that. That all of us are cloud users, right? But if somebody can take initiative and tell me that how many of brother here knows some basic of cloud, so that I can skip few slides maybe and go into the advanced cloud and understanding the cloud rather than spending few minutes in the basic of clouds. Anybody want to volunteer? Any bhai want to volunteer? Or let me ask the question other way. Is there anybody who understands the cloud basic completely and has been working on that and has the experience on the cloud? So that brother can also help me in Q&A sessions and other. Okay.
MashaAllah, I think people have started responding in the chat. You can just take a look.
Okay, sure.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother Qazi, Imranuddin Qazi. It's better you can start from basics also, learning a foundation from, as far as a good experience from you, it will be in.
Sure. I think, yes, I will try to give the engineering basic of cloud, right? We all know the cloud from the basic end user perspective, right? I have, when I, for few of my legacy customer, I have heard a very good phrase from one customer who was a kind of administrator of a big US credit, financed credit card company. And what he said to me, for when I was giving this session to him, he said, "Oh, for me, the cloud is like using somebody else's computer, right? So we never want to go into the cloud, and this was 3-4 years back, session which I was talking about, when I was doing this in US. That guy, I was so much amazed with his question, the way he put that cloud definition. Using somebody else's computer for doing your work is what is the cloud definition by that administrator guy who understands the IT completely, but was not aware of the cloud, right? So it is fundamentally very important to understand the cloud basics from the technological perspective. So we'll spend some time on that. I think I got the context, what we want to listen today, and then we will go into step by step into the building blocks of clouds, cloud deployment models. Because unless you understand the cloud deployment models and the cloud layers, especially the IaaS, which is the infrastructure as a service layer, the platform as a service layer, and the software as a service layer, we will not be able to understand which cloud or which layer of cloud we are utilizing. And then, of course, when you put all this together in the context, as an end user or as an in enterprise company, you are not sure which cloud is good for you, right? Or you want to use better part of each and every cloud. So you want to use something from Amazon also, you want to use Google Cloud also, you want to use IBM Cloud also, you want to use Microsoft Azure as well, and you also want to have your own private cloud or sort of your own infrastructure. That's where majority of the customers want today. They don't want customer locking. They don't want only one cloud to be their hosting provider. So that's where this multi-cloud has become an important aspect, that you want infrastructure coming from multiple clouds, and the hybrid, what hybrid word plays their role to make it hybrid multi-cloud. We'll talk about that. And then we'll inshallah close with some Q&A from all brothers. Any questions on the agenda? Okay. So cloud, yeah, go ahead.
Particularly, do you speak about anything about AWS or Azure here?
No, I am I am not any cloud specific administrator. I can talk about.
Okay.
I will not go into implementation of any cloud because that's not the purpose. But I will assure you that you can correlate this to anything, right? You can correlate this to any of the specific implementation. I will not go into what Google Cloud does, what AWS does, and what Azure does, right? But we'll talk about all of them in a different way. Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Jazakallah.
So cloud is definitely a new consumption model. The way we are trying to use the applications today, it is applications, or we are trying to use hardware, we are trying to use software, the way we are trying to consume everything from the IT perspective, it is through the cloud model. Cloud is a consumption model, right? So the way we have seen the evaluation evolution in all the industries, right from the cable industry of the way the TV used to be, or television used to be, seen with the antenna earlier, and then through the cable, which come from one of the provider, and everybody becomes consumer through that hard cabling which is coming into our TV. and through the dish antennas, and now through the applications and app what you are using the TV, right? This are all kind of different models. So cloud is also similarly a new consumption model and delivery model. It has several advantages, and that's where it is becoming more and more popular, right? It has cost reduction, scaling can be sort of, you can say, unlimited, right? Utilization, you can pay as you use, and all those flexibility, agility, what we call about, from the all the acronyms you can use here to define cloud. But the interesting part is it's more of an automation. If you have to start it, it's more of an automation. Just this is a more of a bookish definition, but consider what you see in this picture, everything, right? Your infrastructure, your storage, your compute, your network, your database, your operating systems, your software, your middleware, your all of these things, what you can think from the data center perspective, what you see as a hardware, what you see as a software stack, everything is available in the cloud, right? And that's where the flexibility comes in, and it includes, from the modeling perspective or deployment perspective, it has primarily two ways of doing it. One is the private way, private cloud. Another is the public cloud. That is the only two way when the cloud had started. But people soon realize that you cannot keep private and public completely separated out, and you have to have the advantage, because there are pros and cons on both the things. So you wanted to have a hybrid model which will have pros and from both the things, and you can make it a hybrid module where you are able to leverage both private, which is your on-prem part on your premises, and the public cloud, which is off premises, right? Which you don't see the infrastructure. So bringing advantage of both public and private makes you the hybrid cloud. We'll talk about those in details. And then delivery models, as I talked about, this is very much important to understand everything as a service, right? Infrastructure as service, platform as a service, software as a service, business as a service. This as a service model is very, very important to understand, to get the basic of the cloud. And we'll talk about that and see these few examples. Another few, same thing in a different way, right? Cloud definitely provides you, you don't need to buy your infrastructure at once if you are talking about public cloud, right? If you are talking about private cloud, yes, you need to go into that same model of purchasing all the infrastructure, and then in private cloud it more become, the definition of cloud is more of automation. But in public cloud, you go and start using it as you pay, you start using it, and you can grow or you can expand as you need. In private cloud, you have to purchase all the infrastructure, but that is still the cloud, right? Cloud is not only about public cloud. Cloud is not only about Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM. That's not only the cloud. I can build the cloud with if I purchase two computers at my home, I can pretty much build the cloud on top of those two computers, or even in a single computer also, if it's a scale up large server with with a high end processor and terabytes of memory, right? Because cloud is nothing but the automation, right? It is more about public cloud has given it a different kind of dimension. That's why you say pay per use, or pay as you grow. Self-service model you can build on the private cloud also, which means that you can just want to do your virtual machine deployment, or you're bringing up your machine in a single click, because you have already built that cloud foundation and to get all those automation, elasticity to go scale up, scale down, and multi-tenancy with respect to having a same infrastructure where Pepsi and Coke can come in, right? And they both can be isolated, and they're still, you can have Pepsi virtual machine and Coke virtual machine, sitting on the same piece of hardware, but they are still isolated and completely secure from each other. That is what the multi-tenancy is, right? You have different tenants coming into your cloud and using the same shared infrastructure, isolated through all the security model which you built into your cloud. Resource is completely abstracted. It doesn't need to know when you are the end user of the cloud. You really do not know, if you are using Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud from the end user portal, you really don't know when you are purchasing the storage from there, from which storage controller or which physical disk that your storage is coming from, or your virtual machine is coming from, which processor it is utilizing, which memory it is, from which hardware it is utilizing. You never get to know, right? Because it's a completely abstracted part, right? And that is true even in on-premises, also in private cloud, because on-premises also, when you have your interfaces, you can be completely isolated in terms of what it depends on what user you are talking about, right? So public cloud and private cloud from the end user perspective can have same experience. It's just the deployment model is on-premises for your private cloud, and for public cloud it is something where you can't see it, is given from the provider, and provider is external. Here in private cloud, when you have built the infrastructure on-prem, you are the provider as well as you are the consumer. A lot of automation, reusability, as I said, main important thing of cloud is all about automation and flexibility and reusability. If you are thinking from the public cloud model, yes, it does not have any capex, no capital investment. It has only operational cost, which is also variable in terms of how many VMs you are using or how many resources you are using, what storage you are using. That for you will pay only for that. And if you don't want to use it, you just simply go ahead and delete it, and the billing and metering for that consumer part will stop. So that's the operational and part of it, which is variable in public cloud, right? But there is no capex. Capex is there when you're trying to build a private cloud, on-prem cloud, right, where you own your own infrastructure. Then there is a capex cost. I'll take a pause here before I go into a technical building blocks of cloud, right? How it is possible, whatever things we talked about so far, public, private, using infrastructure from anywhere, doing that automation, how all those things is feasible. We'll talk on that. But is there any question for me? I'll just wait for a 20-second pause.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question. So the private cloud is completely same as on-prem?
Yes, private cloud is always on-prem.
Okay, fine.
Right, which means you are owning your infrastructure. You own your infrastructure. You own your entire stack. You own the hardware. You own the software. You own the middleware. You own everything from bottom to top. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about the different layer of stuff, right? IaaS layer and platform as a service and software as a service and other things.
So if I buy some cloud from public, so for example, I'm purchasing some infrastructure or hardware resources from the public. So can I make it as private?
That is something which is, within public cloud. If you want to purchase a complete entire host, let's say, for example, you are not purchasing a virtual machine, you want a dedicated host where you do not want any other VMs to come. Many of the cloud providers provide that. In fact, many of the cloud providers also provide you something called as virtual private cloud within the public cloud. So that means that you are virtually, they are giving you the, I'll say.
Okay, got it. That is called a virtual private cloud.
Virtual private cloud, where you are consuming the public cloud, but they are saying that vendor is claiming to you, the provider is saying that you have a private infrastructure, right? Nobody is going to share your infrastructure, but that infrastructure is still managed by your, the provider who is managing whatever. If you are using Google Cloud, you are using a private cloud from them. They are hosting your environment and everything. Just you have been given the thought that it is here not a public cloud for you, it is a private cloud for you, but it is actually a public cloud, and under that you have been created a virtual private cloud for you.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Sure.
Brother, what is capex? You said something. I didn't get. Can you repeat that?
Yes, capex is your capital investment. So today, when you want to go and buy a computer, you have to invest into all of your, purchasing the computer itself, right? That is your capital investment. You have to purchase table and chair also to put up everything, right? If you are using maybe if you go into public cloud, you just go and click and buy the virtual machine, you get one IP and you get in, log into that and start using it. And if you use it for 1 hour, you will be charged only for that 1 hour, right? So that's your operational cost, and you just delete that, and and capital is where you are doing your investment. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm getting into this. How the cloud is possible, right? The cloud is possible because of very, very basic technology, which is there in IT industry since last more than 25-30 years. And that is, something which was IBM invented it earlier, in the hardware, what we call as virtualization, right? Virtualization is the basic fundamental thing of cloud. If virtualization technology could have not been there, I'm not saying that, since I work from IBM invented that. IBM invented that 25-30 years back, but never could capitalize on that the way VMware capitalized on that. Yet when they introduced this, all this virtualization stuff from VMware side, the way they commercialize that, they are the largest virtualization enterprise provider now for the virtualization. So, but what virtualization does is, it basically helps to build the cloud. Otherwise, if you take out virtualization out from your IT or your technology, you cannot build a cloud at all. So virtualization, when I say virtualization, it is the three things which needs to be virtualized. And that is true when you are taking your physical computer also. When you take your physical computer today, what you have to take, if you want to assemble that computer, other than the input-output devices, you need to make sure that you are taking your processor and memory, which is your server component, right? Server part of it. And then you need to have a network where you get because unless there is a connectivity, you cannot access data from anywhere. So you need a network, and then you need a storage, right? Because you need to have some secondary storage, right, on your computer. So these three things are the basic building blocks of your computer, and that how you virtualize these three things: the server virtualization part, the network virtualization part, and storage virtualization part. These virtualization become your basic building block for the cloud computing.
Assalamu alaikum, Imran Qazi bhai.
Walaikum salam.
See, my question, like, it's a typical, whatever the cloud development in India, as far as we lagged a lot of behind as compared to the other countries apart from India. Especially when I take the name India, our financial institution, because I have worked as a third party at the end user with the banking institutions where they own their own cloud, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
So
Majority of them, yes.
how India is still not open that much to the public cloud, but practically, to my knowledge speaking, public cloud has got most of the services to offer than the private cloud. And the more there is a two-factor, the reason why the Indian have not been moved out, that is data integrity as well as data security. Can you please put some vision on this, please?
Yeah, I agree with you, partially. This is not only India-specific concern. Overall, across the globe, if you see, 5 years back, people have been very much hesitant, and especially the finance industry, banking industries, even to some extent health industries, right, and pharmaceutical companies, because they have so much of IP specific or confidential data which they don't want to put in public domain at all, right? But that is in India, that maybe a little bit more, because here when you talk about the admins, in the data centers, right? They think that they will be jobless if the cloud comes, right? Right. But cloud, as I said, cloud is also reusing your infrastructure and building the automation layer, and to make sure that you have the private cloud on-prem using your existing infrastructure. That is one part of it, cloud. But what other part you touch about the public cloud consumption, that is, I will say, lot of things has changed in last couple of years on that. Lot of banking customers also are using the public cloud interfaces, but yes, they are using it for different purpose. They are not using it for their core banking. They are using it for they started using it for their services, some other kind of interfaces. But their core banking, let's say for example, clearing the check and all those data where what the customer data reside, that is still on-prem. But that part is changing slowly. I don't think private cloud will completely go away and public cloud is the only way going forward. It will always be, people will keep their workload. It also depends on your workload on private cloud, some workload on public cloud. And that's why the topic what I have today is, right, hybrid multi-cloud is extremely important. And that is what industry has realized. The way forward is not either public or private. It is the hybrid multi-cloud. Multi becomes because you want to use different vendors, right? But that trend is changing slowly. I have been talking to Axis Bank and SDFC for my recent engagement. They are considering on, at least on private cloud, they've started. Initially, if you talk for 3 years back, they were not even ready to take any sort of cloud. They said they are okay if the virtual machine deployment takes 3-4 days by creating a virtual fiber channel adapter manually, creating the manual zoning, all those attachments. It is okay for them to take 3-4 days or 1 week to deploy single virtual machine. Whereas what cloud does is single click, virtual machine is ready, right? So they have at least started using the private cloud model. I'm sure as things move, they have also pressure for the transformation from their upper management. They will start using the public cloud as well for some of the workload. Few customers have in banking industries, in other geography has already started for certain workloads using public cloud. Okay. So what I was talking about here, the virtualization of these three things: the server virtualization, the network virtualization, storage virtualization. There are several examples of server virtualization you must have heard about. The hypervisors, hypervisor technology, be it the Linux-based, community-based KVM, which is the very widely popular, backed by Red Hat virtualization technology, KVM, right? Then you have VMware ESXi, which is backed by VMware. That is also a hypervisor technology. Then you have Hyper-V from Microsoft, which is also a hypervisor. Hypervisor is something which basically takes your control of your hardware and slices it.
Correct.
Sorry, is there any question?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Imran brother. I just want to understand, like, how well is India prepared to have these cloud-based data centers in our, because what I heard since long from past 3 to 4 years, Adani was to be established one of the biggest Asian center at Visakhapatnam. Correct me if I'm not wrong, but it didn't happen truly. Still, that is an ongoing project. How well we are prepared as in India to build that cloud-based data center to be in India? Physically, I'm talking.
Yes, but there are data centers from various cloud companies, because they with respect to, see, from the
I'm talking about an international standard compared to others.
From the European, if you see, European countries has come up with something called as GDPR. GDPR is the compliance with all European region has mandate for every company, every software company. What that means is, any data which is originated from Europe has to be in Europe only. It cannot go outside, right? So if, let's say, Google has to have some customer from European on their cloud, they have to make sure it is mandatory from them that they have to have a data center either in Frankfurt or in London and so on, right? So those kind of compliance India has not mandated. If it's a government policy that India mandates that none of the Indian data which is originated from India can go outside India. So it will be mandatory for all these major cloud providers to have the data centers within India, and there whenever I as an Indian go and purchase virtual machine, I am rest assured that my virtual machine and my data is being deployed somewhere in the data center within India.
Yeah, I agree, Imran Qazi bhai, because I'll give you one very, very openly a good example where a lot of customers, very, very since long they are facing example. We can take Indian Railways, it's the biggest network. So if it was properly maintained like a virtualization, the end user couldn't have been issue in booking the tickets. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know about Indian Railways are they using, but they definitely have the software as a service now. I mean, I can use their API and write my own booking application. So
I'm talking about an end user. They face a lot of issues. If it is actually clearly on a planned cloud, it should not have happened.
It's more of a scaling issue, right? In the sense their infrastructure is not that scaling up to the number of users. Right? When you plan to deploy your whatever web server hosting applications and other thing, the way you want to create your cluster to support max number of users, that needs infrastructure expansion also, right? So maybe I think their infrastructure is not handling the kind of load.
Agree, brother. Alhamdulillah. Agree. I wanted it from your mouth of word. Correct. Agree.
Sure. So go ahead.
Just one remark to the participants. My suggestion is let's hear Imran Bhai's whole talk and then we can put down the questions. Do you think it makes sense? So that we are focusing on the...
Apologize. Yes, brother. Please.
Yeah. Please. Thank you.
Sure, Jazakallah. So because it is already more than 35 minutes now. I'm only still on the basic part. So on the server virtualization, I was giving some example with respect to hypervisors. I gave example about KVM. I gave example about Hyper-V, VMware ESXi. There is also Power Systems, which is IBM Power Systems. We have virtualization known as Power VM, which is more of a hardware virtualization. So that is all category of server virtualization, which will virtualize your CPU and memory. Now there is a network virtualization also when you have your physical Ethernet switches, right? You have your physical Ethernet card on your laptop or on your physical desktop computers. You have typically one Ethernet adapter card or two Ethernet adapter card, right? But if you want to get the virtual machine deployed, you can deploy maybe tens or hundreds of virtual machines. But how would you get that same Ethernet card be used by so many virtual machines? That is all possible because you can create this virtual switches now, virtual VLANs, right? And virtual NIC you can have, right? So all of this is possible, right? VLANs. All of this is possible because of the network virtualization, right? That is itself is a deep topic. I don't want to go in individual detail, but understand that virtualization is what virtualization has done here. And similarly on storage also, when you have a storage of 1 petabyte of disk or 100 GB of disk, you typically go and do the partition of that disk in 20 GB each, right? You have 20 GB C partition, D partition. That is nothing but the storage virtualization. And all of these three are the basic building blocks. Without this, cloud is impossible to implement. And what is there, what you see on the extreme right is the pieces which connect all of these things together as a service model, right? I am using Swiggy as a food as a service, right? I'm not cooking myself. I'm just calling one, clicking on button and the food is coming at my home. That is as a service model. But from the technology perspective, that as a service model is nothing. But when you are writing let's say a calculator program and you are giving an APIs to do a addition, you are exposing that API. Anybody can call that API, and that API they can pass two parameter, and the third parameter they will get as an output is the addition of those. That API is what is been exposed is what is the service, addition as a service, for example, right? So this is what is happening. Everything what people are building today, they want to provide that as a service. One of the brother talk about the IRCTC, right? The Indian Railway booking system. They also have this REST API interface which I can use because they are providing that as a software as a service entity. So this RESTful model is important, and all of these four things together make the basic of the cloud. I will not go into definition. I'll skip this in the interest of time, because virtualization, we all understand, virtualization is the ability to run multiple operating systems on a single physical hardware. And a single physical hardware, I can run multiple operating systems, and then they all can be booted at the same time. That is all possible because of those hypervisor technology which I talked about, which does the server virtualization. And the cloud computing is, again, this is a bookish definition. It's a provisioning of the service in a timely manner and on-demand manner, right, to allow you to scale up and scale down. Few example, this is the traditional approach where you always need to do one server. You have to install complete web server there with installing Windows and IIS and everything. Then you go and install the another server for your application server, database server, and so on. This is your traditional approach where one hardware will need one OS, and then you will have that application on top of that. What virtualization brings here is, you have your infrastructure, doesn't matter how much your hardware is capable. If you have your hardware, virtualization layer is basically can connect all those pieces together and can give you custom required virtual machines which can run their own operating systems, right? Or you can build the virtualization layer on single host, put a virtualization layer, and then put two virtual machines which can run two independent operating systems. So this is how it is done, right? And you can imagine this in itself as a cloud. Sorry, any question? Right. So another example, without virtualization, all your CPU memory and everything is occupied by single operating system and single application, what is running on top of that operating system. The moment you talk about virtualization, your CPU, memory, and everything, your network card, your storage, and everything is been sliced by your virtualization layer, be it VMware virtualization layer, what I talked about, ESXi, or be it KVM, or be it Hyper-V from Microsoft. They all will take control of your hardware and do a slice. And slice means logical slicing, not physical slicing of that, right? But a logical slicing of that to give you the interfaces which can be used by the operating systems in a virtual way. Remember, this operating system doesn't get changed here. So for example, when you want to install Windows or you want to install Red Hat 8, or you want to install /15 on a virtual machine versus a physical machine, the operating system doesn't need any change. That is what the beauty of this hypervisor layer, what we talk about, the virtualization layer. It emulates those what I talked about, the logical partition of the hardware, such that for operating system it will look like a physical, right? So when you are running this operating system or running this is exactly same operating system. You do not need a separate operating system for installing it in a virtual machine versus installing it in a physical machine. And the beauty of that is because of this VMware. Otherwise, if this could have been a different OS, then for cloud, you would have always needed different operating systems. But that's not the case, right? Our applications, that's why our application can run on the physical computers as well as on the cloud, because cloud is all about virtualization, right? And that's the beauty of virtualization layer, that it emulates the same capabilities what is emulated by the hardware in their software, slicing of those hardware, so that operating system doesn't need any change. deployment model we talked about, right? The private, I touch base on the private cloud, on the public cloud, what you see on the extreme left here, extreme right. The pros and cons we also understand now. Private cloud is completely customer own responsibility of infrastructure. Customer is owning the infrastructure. You can do as much of customization you want. You can put whatever security controls you want on your infrastructure because you are owning it end to end, right? You have access to everything, to hardware lock, to software lock, to application lock, everything. You can decide what is your firewall setting, who should come in, who should go out, right? Anybody can, what is your file permissions and other permission, other thing. Everything has been decided by yourself because you are owning this complete infrastructure. You have put certain automation on top of it. You have put the IaaS layer on top of it, infrastructure as service layer. You have put the applications which put the self-service portal capabilities, all those cloud-based enabling fundamentals things that has make it a private cloud. But ultimately, you are owning everything end to end. In public cloud, the model is different, right? You are using somebody else's infrastructure. Provider is somebody else, so you have very less control on the security. You have to follow what security they are providing to you. Yes, you can do some customization, but there is the main security control is been done by the or it is been handled by the provider of the public cloud. No visibility in day-to-day operations, what is happening in the data centers, no access to the system-based logs or anything, right? You pretty much are using your VM from that as an off-premises VM, right? So that's a public cloud. Go ahead with the question, sorry. Yeah, so in between, that's what between private public, people like the feature about the private cloud, people like the public cloud thing also. That's why the hybrid model is more important, where the customer has a flexibility. This workload I want to put in my private cloud, and this workload I can put into public cloud, right? And I should be able to use both of them. I should be able to move the application from private cloud to public cloud, or one public cloud to another public cloud. All right, and vice versa, and all of these things make the make that model as a hybrid IT model, where you have the ability to choose between public and private option, and you have both the option at your at your management stack. I think for everybody who are either the cloud consumer or who want to use cloud, it is extremely important to understand these layers of cloud, because you should be able to visualize how you want to, if you are trying to, as an organization, you are trying to start using cloud, right? Or you are as an end user, you want to, or as a developer, you want to start using cloud. For all of those things, these three layers are very important: infrastructure as a service layer, platform as a service layer, and software as a service layer. Of course, infrastructure is for operators and IT operators and IT admins. Platform as a service is for developers. Software as a service is for end users. But let's understand technically what that means, right? This is a very nice picture which I actually taken it from BMC. I've given the credit to them, by you can see it's from BMC website. If you understand, right, on premises, starting it from left side, if you start reading it from left side, on premises is where you own everything in the sense that those three building blocks we talked about, right? Networking, storage, and servers, and then the virtualization part of it. And on top of virtualization, what comes is the operating systems. So you own the operating systems, you own the middleware, you own the runtime, whatever you want, database, application, everything is completely owned by you from top to bottom. The moment you go little bit on the right side, the infrastructure is a service layer. This is where if let's say you can use these services even from the Google Cloud or the Amazon Cloud. If you go there and just ask for the virtual machine, right? Just buy the virtual machine from them. That means you are this part is something which they are providing to you. You are using their infrastructure as a service layer. So you are not bothered about what are my server storage network and what is my virtualization they are using, whether it is Hyper-V, KVM or anything. What your intention is, okay, I need a virtual machine, then I will get the OS on top of it, or give me this piece of hardware or this piece of configuration. I'll put the operating system. I will have my own middleware. These are all things. What you see in blue is you are owning that or you are managing that. All the red thing is something which you are getting as a service. This is what is infrastructure as service. When you see at the platform as a service layer, this is where developer comes in. Also, if I'm a developer, I just need a runtime, right? I need all my middleware dependency and everything. I want to write some, C# application or some Java-based application or some, So as a developer, I need a platform to work on. It doesn't matter for me whether it is a Red Hat or it is a SUSE or it is, whose Java or whose environment. I just need the platform where I can start writing my data module or application. So that is when it comes as a platform as a service. That is also available from Amazon. Also, you can get it from Google App Engine and others. You can see the examples on the extreme right side. So when you get into this platform as a service model, the provider is providing you till the runtime. What you are owning only is the application and data. Whereas when you get into the software as a service model, which is where you are installing the applications, or this is what we are connected through Zoom, right? Zoom is nothing but a software as a service, right? We all are using this. I just click one link and I connected it. As a service, I'm using this Zoom as a software. So I am not, all of participants today here are not bothered where the Zoom is hosted, on which operating system it is running, which database it is hosting, whether it is running with which middleware or what virtualization technology it is using, right? Because for us as an end user, we are software as a service end user for Zoom. It is absolutely transparent for us. It doesn't matter for us where it is residing or what it is running, on what it is running, right? We are interested in that the link should work. I should be able to join in. When I say mute, it should mute. When I say unmute, it should unmute. I will take a pause and open up for question because after this, I'll just go into the middleware on the hybrid cloud part. So can we open up for a question for a few minutes? Otherwise, I will not be able to proceed if my audience are not with me here. Does this make sense, all of these layers?
So silence means it is understood. We can proceed.
Sure. Okay, so from where you want to start, right? If you pretty much need to start on the cloud, or you as an organization you are starting into the cloud, or as an end user you want to start to the cloud, right? It is very rare that nobody is using any virtualization thing today. I'm sure a lot of legacy data center also has the virtualization technology. If you are the very much end user, that for example, I'm using my laptop and I don't have anything, I'm just have one operating system on that, then I'm not using anything of virtualization. But if I want, I can install Hyper-V on my Windows laptop and create 2-3 virtual machines, which is also running Red Hat and SUSE and everything on top of my single laptop, right? So that virtualization foundation has to be first prepared. Then you can build on top of that your cloud story, right? Which is the entry cloud, I'll say, for a private cloud, just building a further automation of putting some software which will allow you to do a self-service portal on that. And then advanced cloud and other things this is the way to keep proceeding. I'm coming on to one of the interesting chart for my overall presentation to give you the quick view about the hybrid multi-cloud, right? So as I said, the industry has all of this deployment model, but the end users, all the cloud users or the cloud consumer or the cloud providers or the enterprise customers or the startups and everyone, they have the need of their infrastructure, but their needs are very, very different, and they are drastically changing, very fast, right? So they may have one project today which will need some kind of different infrastructure. They have completely different project tomorrow, and then it needs a different infrastructure. So what that means is you cannot keep the constraint that either I can only use public, or if I am using public, I cannot use somebody's other's public cloud, or if I am using public cloud, I cannot use private cloud and something like that, right? It has to be flexibility in terms of I should be able to use everything, whatever best suited for my workload. So just if you start building the complete theory, let's assume that you have different type of infrastructure today in your data center. Consider any example of any big or small organization, or any banking example. They have this private infrastructure. They have huge servers, storages, rack, which they are using different softwares to manage that, running different type of Linux or AIX or Oracle or SAP, different kind of workloads. So they may have different vendors servers. They may have different type of operating systems. They may have different type of softwares. They may have different type of middleware, and their applications may be different, running on different infrastructure. But all of those infrastructure has been provided with some sort of interfaces. For example, if you go and talk about hyper-converged infrastructure, which you take a rack, and rack has everything: storage, network, compute, right? That is what the hyper-converged hardware is, provided by Nutanix and Cisco. That has their own software. Nutanix will have their own software to manage that. Cisco will have their own software to manage it. Similarly, when you go and take the HP servers, or IBM servers, or Intel based server from any vendors, right? You will have their own infrastructure management pieces, right? Which you will get, or for example, VMware also, right? So and then you will be having multiple consoles and multiple admins with that same expertise. Nutanix admin will only understand Nutanix software. They can only manage Nutanix on-prem. So these are the different OpenStack. What you see here is the community-based infrastructure as a service layer. It can manage your infrastructure, storage, compute, and server, and provide you the infrastructure as service layer. So many customer has that community-based OpenStack as well. Power VC, what you see is example of my product, but I'll not talk about that much. But it is also a sort of infrastructure as a service layer product, which is managing this infrastructure. But this is not at all these things, right? People also have their different infrastructure and different software managing those things. Maybe someone have this mainframes, what also called as Linux Z servers, Linux 1 Z servers, which is running this blockchain kind of applications within Docker and Linux applications. They may have that, and it is managed by somebody else. Somebody will have this VMware as well, VMware stack completely, what we call as VMware vSphere and VMware vRealize, or complete VMware suite for managing their hardware and doing the private cloud. So these are different kind of infrastructure which people have on-prem. Majority of the banks, majority of the financial big institute, you will see their data center is not vendor locked. They don't have vendor locking. They will have storages. If they purchase storage, they will purchase storage from Hitachi, EMC, IBM, and NetApp, and Pure Storage, and so on. So similarly, when they buy servers, they will buy servers from different vendors. They will have all the operating systems, because which workload works where better, right? What hardware is every hardware is good for something, right? And every hardware is not good for something. So those kind of infrastructure challenges are there everywhere. That's why people have this spread of things available today in their data centers. And what they also have is this off-premises, right? One brother was talking about, they want to use Amazon services. So people also have this off-premises cloud. And with this off-premises, many customers do not want to have only Google Cloud or only Amazon Cloud. They want to have all this, maybe top 5 cloud player what we have today, right? IBM, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon and all, right? So this is how people want to spread their infrastructure today. They have different type of servers, different type of operating systems, different type of applications, different type of management stack. All of these things what you see here is the infrastructure as a service layer component which are managing all of this infrastructure and providing you virtualization and giving you private cloud till here, right? And giving you public cloud interface here. But if as an end user now, I want to use in my data center or I want to use in my company all of these things, but if I want single remote for managing all of these things, a single pane of glass for managing everything, that is where you get this hybrid cloud manager, right? Hybrid multi-cloud manager. And what does this is, this will allow you to connect all your pieces together. If you want to move your virtual machine or your application from on-prem, now you think that, okay, no, this application does not have any, security concern. I can take it to off-prem, or this is my test VM. I can put it on the, off-prem, right? My production, all my test environment can be on off-prem. So that way you can do the migration of those virtual machines also from this top layer what you see here at the hybrid multi-cloud manager layer, right? So you deploy virtual machines, or you deploy containers, or you deploy bare metal applications. You do all your hybrid multi-cloud enablement. This is what it happens. Now what you happen is, from the end user, you try to imagine end user wants to deploy one workload. That end user will see from this hybrid multi-cloud what that workload needs, whether that workload needs the characteristics it can get better from Microsoft Cloud, or it can get from the on-prem hardware which I have, maybe from Nutanix or from IBM or from HP or from anywhere. You can decide at this layer where that VM should go or where that container should go, right? This is the advantage of hybrid multi-cloud manager. It basically integrates all of your cloud, whether it is your private cloud or public cloud, or it is multiple different clouds within your private part, or multiple different cloud within your public cloud, putting everything together so that you have a right thing goes at the right place from your perspective, and you are not having any vendor locking, right? This hybrid cloud multi-manager this is where every large cloud players are going through. They are all running for providing the solutions in this domain of hybrid multi-cloud. This is just a snapshot of one of the IBM hybrid multi-cloud manager. You can see all the Azure, AWS, Google interfaces in the same place. And I think with that, I'll just stop and we can take the questions.
Assalamu alaikum, Imran Kazim.
Walaikum salam.
What I'm saying, I think the future technology, I don't know when it will come. See, right now, that end user client I'm asking, still where a lot of people are lagging, using a lot of, like, we use it as a total what we call end user hardware. We use a monitor, we use desktop, we use laptop. I think the future will be totally a handheld palm top with a less, like, just only having a touch screen for handling on this. There will be no more like increase in the hardware number. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. I think we are going there. We are going there.
But they are still not compatible to handle that much of energy. Like there are a lot of drawbacks, like it will become too heated. What? I think such type of devices may be coming in future. Correct?
Right. Absolutely. That's what is happening. Right? Now, if you see pen drives, why they are become cheaper? Because nobody is going to buy pen drive now. who will copy the data in pen drives and keep them somewhere. There is always a fear of that you will lose that pen drive. Then when you lose it, you lose your data. There is a security threat to that, and it may get physically damaged also. So nobody is going to buy now pen drives or the additional hard drives. Everybody is going to buy the storage into cloud, right? So there are cloud storage providers. So people, that what they do is storage virtualization and provide you the virtual instance of your cloud 100 GB hard disk or 10 GB. Everybody is going to buy that. The trend has started. Pen drive, or I'm just giving an example, right? That model has gone out. People, very few people are there who will still go ahead and buy pen drives and all. But otherwise, everybody is going to buy. That's why Google has done that thing, right? They are always giving you this much GB of free data, free space, because they are doing investment into that. And the moment you start generating the data, you will consume those 100 GB what they give you free very soon.
No, yeah, brother. Alhamdulillah, I completely agree, because I have involved in one of the project where that MNC client, where I was, even though as a third party, this one, we didn't use any of the external pen drives for OS deployment. Their end user was a Microsoft. See, that was actually, it was already in the virtual machine. The deployment package was installed. The moment when a new machine comes into being, either it may be a iPad, iPod, a handheld like a laptop, we just connect a networking device where I change immediately the IP. It will connect to that directly, that storage where the deployment, I immediately deploy that software for installing all the software. That is a total most secured one, where we don't use any external pen drives.
You're right. That's correct. Yes. Right.
Any other question?
Brother Imran Kazi, how about where exactly this IBM virtualization stand in the international market compared to the Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all etc. So what is the current trend going on? Because every year there will be changes. There will be a lot of competition in the market.
Yeah. So there are these top 5 cloud providers, right? And IBM is among top 5. But it really depends on what you are looking for, right? What is your need? If, for example, I will give you example, right, which is what we work in IBM, or at least I work in. If you are deploying a SAP, SAP is one of the largest enterprise applications, right, widely used. And SAP HANA is something where if you see the SAP HANA database, right, the database for that application is the in-memory database. And if you are running an SAP based application, you need a huge memory on your virtual machine. And you need to make sure that your SAP applications are such a complex applications that it also needs a lot of reliability. It should never go down, because your entire enterprise applications or business things are happening on that application. So typically, if you have that kind of need of vast memory and flexible CPUs, a lot of people use IBM Power Systems for deploying SAP. And there is not many providers, who provide power systems into IBM Power Systems into cloud. Google has started just that, and Microsoft is leveraging that with partners. But the power systems are only available in IBM Cloud. So people will come. So it depends on your workload, and then from workload characteristics, you have to map with the public provider characteristic, right? What they are best at. If you are using maybe some applications you have to write, or some services you want to use which has more of Windows influence, naturally you will incline toward the Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, mashallah. Brother, you mean to say like this power systems currently following the monopoly trend? We doesn't have anything in HP or Dell, such a system in competition in line?
No, power architectures are completely IBM proprietary. We have recently make it open source and call it Open Power. So there are now vendors who have, that was specifically for China market, because IBM couldn't go and sell in China, right? Our market share was going down in China. That's why we have open source our power infrastructure, which is our processor architecture. And there were vendors in China who are using that open architecture and building the power systems. and IBM is getting some revenue from that angle. So it was, but typically power systems are proprietary IBM, all the enterprise servers.
No, I'm talking about the competition. In competition with the power system, does HP doesn't have any other technology?
No.
Or
All
Dell?
our power competition. See, IBM power systems are processor, right? There is only
Correct.
one processor company other than IBM is Intel. There used to be others,
okay.
but those are not that much, right? But Intel has a larger market share, and then Intel has
Correct.
a lot of HP.
Compared to AMD, Intel has a far better. Yeah,
Right. And then all this HP and Dell and all these people, they take Intel processor and build their server.
They are dependent on Intel. Correct.
Yeah, right.
And how about Power Series servers? What exactly, how this is competition in the market?
Power has it's a 3 billion market business for IBM. 3 billion, right? So it's a enterprise scale. There is a lot of enterprise, especially banking applications, right? They use Power, right? Heavily using Power. For blockchain and all, they use Z as well, IBM Z systems, mainframes. But Power is widely used by all the financial and banking industries.
I had experience of E series, X series, all those things, brother.
Okay.
Brother, if the question is, if I'm new to the cloud, if I want to pursue a career in the cloud, so like, what is the approach I have to follow? Any idea on that?
If you have to see what currently you have, right? What you're working, what experience you have.
Actually, I'm working on Java. So as a Java developer, so if I want to pursue a career in the cloud. You got the question, brother?
Yes, I got the question, brother. Maybe that is more of a career discussion topic. You can personally call me. You can take my number and inshallah try to guide you on that.
Okay, thank you.
This is just one chart which I have. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, similar to IBM hybrid manager, right? Multi-cloud manager. So, what are the different solutions from different competitors?
VMware claims a lot of these things on the hybrid multi-cloud manager. Google has also started their trend. They have this Kubernetes based orchestrator today, but they are sort of building a lot of product which is targeting this hybrid multi-cloud space. Microsoft is also claiming that they are now able to connect you. If you are on Microsoft cloud, you can connect to any other cloud and get your workloads and everything. So all of this, in fact, because if you see this trend, right, that's why this market trend is important, right? The traditional IT, what this chart shows, right, it is 640 billion market. 640 billion market is there in 2020, but it is going 9% down on an average part, right, every year. If you see private cloud, it is increasing, but the more increase there increases there in public cloud and hybrid cloud. So all cloud player understand that majority of the customers are trying to use multiple clouds together and public and private both together, and considering the market trends. So all of the major cloud providers have now some part of solution which is targeting the multi-cloud manager or hybrid multi-cloud manager solution.
Okay.
This chart talk about 94% of the customers have multiple clouds today, and out of that 67% are using multiple public cloud providers, right? So they have 94% has already the public and private both, but 67% of that is using multiple cloud providers. On average, people try to use at least more than 3 to 4 public cloud providers. And they do disaster recovery also, by the way. It's the important thing is you can have your primary site in one cloud and you can have your disaster recovery site in other cloud. There are a lot of permutation combination which you can do with this hybrid cloud multi-cloud manager. Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, brothers, go ahead if you have any other questions.
Assalamu alaikum, Imran Azim.
Walaikum
And anything you're going to take for IBM P series servers? Any sessions? It's talking about core hardware P series servers, different type in general.
Sure. Maybe Shahid Bhai is a good person to talk about that and bring any speakers on that. But yes, definitely I can take that if needed in future. You want to understand the power server architecture?
Yes, brother. Alhamdulillah, I got an offer for Bangalore actually. In fact, I wanted to know more about the basic escalation specialist offer. I got it actually. It's still in hand. The company is searching from since past 3 months. They are not able to find such a person to employ on that. It's exclusively a data center management guy specialization.
Okay. Mashallah.
So I needed some inputs on that.
We shall find some other time, inshallah, and we'll look out for a suitable speaker. If Imran Bhai can get ready on that topic also, we can
At
go
least
with
if I
you.
can get any resources, can I share my email ID? How can I get to reach?
Sure, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair.
Yeah. So Imran Bhai, you can share your number because I think somebody asked for your help on the carrier counseling part.
Sure, I will share in the chat. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, brother? Okay, for no more questions, I think we can end here. Jazakallah khairan kaseera to Imran Bhai for taking out his precious time. Back-to-back meetings. I think even in a weekend, I'm not sure how your calendar is showing.
Yeah. I hope this was helpful, but I think it is important to understand the technologies part of it, right?
Alhamdulillah. I think there were a lot of good questions also. Real life questions from Brother Sajid. Jazakallah khairan kaseera to Brother Sajid as well. I think since these sessions, most of the professionals are attending during the weekend. So I think it should go interactive way so that we learn more through this session. And now the industry is moving fast in various technologies. So the more we grow or our like technical or managerial ladder, so you need to have the breadth of all the technologies that is in the market, and you can have the depth wherever you're working. But in order to get the breadth of each technology, so I think these sessions are going to complement our growth. So I request all of you to make use of this opportunity to understand various technologies that people are talking in the industry. Though you are might be working on particular stream, but I think it's good to know various technologies and help your career growth. And if you are willing to take any session like this, and if you are experts in some area, you can come back to us, and inshallah we can plan this session for your technology as well. So as Brother Dr. Saif already mentioned that these sessions are getting recorded, and the URL has already been shared, tinyurl/mfid. If you want to go for hearing to the old sessions, you can just go there and hear to them. And going through, if you are looking for some more, like just now Sajid Bhai came up with his need for the power series. So similar queries, if you have, you can just come back to us, inshallah. We can definitely plan sessions for that as well. And over the period of time, if somebody is interested in going on for the hands-on workshop, I think we'll soon start on that topic as well. So the online world, the new normal has made us getting closer through this good collaborative tools. So we should start capitalizing these tools to empower ourselves. Okay, so with this, I think we can conclude. Okay.
Excuse me, brother. Can I just have a small short talk?
Yeah.
Just want to. Assalamu alaikum, Imran Qazi bhai. I think couple of years back, I had attended one small this one, but due to lack of financial this one, I couldn't complete it. There was a training on enterprise technology data center architecture. I just don't remember something that was conducted in Bangalore, where a lot of Muslim brothers were lacking. That was a complete outline knowledge of how exactly the data center work. Maybe it physical on premises, maybe it a cloud. Where I find a lot of a lackness in the behavior of the trainer. He was putting himself too much extreme, like not getting in touch and giving very, very less knowledge transferring. At the end of the day, while a lot of huge fees took away, but ultimately the takeaway, the trainers, the trainees, they were even non-Muslims, where I was very much having very close to them. They appreciated my knowledge very a lot, where I shared more than even the trainer. So such a session, like, can it be conducted? Enterprise technology data center architecture. How exactly the data center looks and how the flow of the data is there inside that.
Mashallah, since I think you already gone through that course, and if you are ready with that content, maybe we can have.
Yeah, inshallah, I will share you, brother. I will share you. I will share you, inshallah.
We can plan sometime, inshallah.
Sure. Inshallah, I will share you, brother. Because that is the need of the hour where the data center requirement is increasing. But due to the lack of the knowledge in between, that our like brothers are not able to touch the interview. I completely agree.
Jazakallah. You can share your.
Inshallah, I will share it.
Inshallah.
Please share me your email ID too, brother. Inshallah.
Yeah.
It was really a very, very nice, fruitful session for me. Alhamdulillah. I was blessed to be part of this session, brother. I was blessed to be part of this session.
Jazakallah. Yeah, Brother Imran, you can share your personal email ID and phone number, so that if someone wants to seek guidance from you, they can, and maybe you can tell what time, or at least they can just send out a WhatsApp message whenever he is free. Maybe he can take it up.
Inshallah. Ameen.
Okay. You can share your details, Brother Sajid.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Jazakumullah khairan.
Imran, could you please ping the IBM ID also? I am part of IBM, so I'll get in touch with you.
You can just search for Imranuddin Qazi in Blue Pages. You will get the idea.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
There.
Sure.
Okay, Brother Saif is there?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, you can take it now.
I would like to thank Brother Imranuddin Qazi for this excellent session, and that was really enriching our knowledge. And thanks to all the participants for your time. And inshallah, we'll keep on having such informative sessions in future, inshallah, also. With this, I would like to call an end to this session. And thanks to all of you. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah. Allah Hafiz.